Good evening, Mr. Hunter. How are you?
I'm doing grand. Yourself?
Are you well? How is things in Dundee?
Drake.
Dreich, double Dreich up here then.
Yeah. Just one of these things, isn't it? But
Not a lot going on here. That's good. What have you been up to?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. Not a hellish lot. Practicing for next weekend's first competition of the season, of the year.
Yeah, that big band competition's all starting up again, eh?
Yeah. So that's next Saturday.
And you're playing with Mackenzie Caledonian this year?
Correct.
New band. Looking
for
forward to that.
I am, yeah. My first competition with them. So even though I joined them end of last season, I didn't play with them. I didn't compete with them until I've not competed with them yet.
Yeah, and you guys are competing in Grade 3A, aren't you?
Grade 3A and playing up to Grade 2 at minor competitions. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So what do you have to have for Grade 3 now? Do you have one medal and one Masters pay in real life?
Yep, one medal, one MSR. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So, MSR is 2 seconds. I'll tell you exactly what it is. I can find the blooming thing.
That's Masters pay in real for all you listeners out there all over the world.
It is, yeah. So, try to find out the list because I can't remember what my tunes are called. There's that. Masters pay in real are Pipe Major Willie Graves, Fellow of the Glasgow Police, Dorney Ferry, and Major David Manson.
Fantastic. Great tunes. It'll be nice to see it kind of going back into full flow this year again as well, because even though last year did get going a bit, it still seemed kind of artificial.
I think with a lot of them are still kind of restricting themselves, all the competitions. Yeah. So they didn't want, but apparently, according to the World Health Organization, the pandemic is over.
I noticed that. Yeah, that. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, so let's try and keep it over for a wee while. That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, all over the world, there's Katie, the wheel piper, joining us, and Dave Cormack, Faye Hamilton, Bonnie Hamilton. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please keep sharing about tonight. You're going to love the show tonight. We've got a great show. Unfortunately, our guest for last week that we were expecting called off, but we're so privileged to get this man at last to come and fill in. Tim Edey is going to come on tonight and do the show with us, which is absolutely fantastic. Tim's been Musician of the Year all over the place and all sorts of things. And
did he not beat you as well?
I think actually I wasn't going to bring that up that he bet me in the Crad Awards, Davey, but I was. If anybody I wanted beaten by, it was Tim Edey. That was.
No, it's really good.
It was kind of like when we were in. If anybody I'd want beaten, it was Big Rab. We wanted to beat us. Exactly.
But
listen, that's fantastic. I was watching Tim's show last night as well that he does time to time, a live show. Fantastic, great player. Met him many times now over the years. We have crossed paths and his different guises when he's playing with different acts and things. He's much in demand. So looking forward to this tonight. For myself, just been a gig in Lerwick on Saturday night and a bit of dance in the pub. So that was quite good. That was fine. That was okay. It's been. I think that was kind of post-festival for some people. They were still having a wee bit kind of blast kind of style thing. So
no went home yet.
Next festival to look forward to is Orkney for us. So that's at the end of this month. And that looking forward to that one too. A couple of weddings to play at in between then, which shouldn't be a surprise to the people that I'm playing at. Hopefully not. Hopefully I've not blown anything and they didn't know about their own wedding or something like that. That would have been a bit of a disaster, but...
Yeah,
I definitely noticed that after COVID. We noticed that, the folk are booking weddings and things again, because I noticed quite a lot coming in for next year and even some in for 2025 and things already, so whereas it all just ground to a halt, so it's nice. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please keep sending in your comments. Let us know where you are in the world. Let us know where you are and share about, and this is going to be great fun tonight. There we go. Looking at somebody joining us. That's lovely to see Pippa joining us. Pippa, if you've never joined us in the show with Tartan Tunes before, we come on every Sunday night, ladies and gentlemen, Tim's Bands. We're on at 8 o'clock every Sunday night, and we have different guests on every week, and we'll tell you about that as we go along. I was going to say, let Tim on, but I noticed he went blank there for a minute. So we shall find him. What we could do is play a track, couldn't we? Oh no, he's back. He's back. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the maestro himself, the box player, the guitarist, the generally good guy. Let's bring on Mr. Tim Edey.
Hello, boys.
Where are you now? You in the car going to a gig or something?
Do you know, Peter? Boys, I've escaped the madness of the house. I managed to cook the tea, and now I've escaped to my wee van, my wee Toyota Mullet. It's called Mullet. I might have to show you the side of it after, but just a wee little camper van I've got. It's 20. She's like an old project. She's 25 years old, and so I'm just sneaking out here, and I hope the signal is okay. And hello to everybody watching. It's lovely. I've shared it as well. That's to my thing, and I'm just going to try and share it again to my sleeping tunes. Yeah.
No bother. There's quite a number of folk joining us that were on your thing last night saying hello and how are you getting on. So tell me, the van then, do you use the van quite a lot when you go gigging? Do you take the van with you and stay there and things?
You know what? Do you know, Peter? I have done. Like I always, like, you know what it's like, lads. You're both musicians, and you always have at some point in your life a van of some sort. And do you know, I've had a few of them now, and you know what it's like being a penniless guitarist and box player. I tend to get old, good old bangers, and this one I'm in now. This was quite a rare find, because there was a company in Australia, and myself and my partner Isabel, she's a singer, we were over on tour there, and we rented this van from a company called Wicked Campers. They're quite a big company, and the idea is it's like a kind of how would you say? It's like a hippie camper. It's a simple, there's no bells or whistles. There's a bed. There's a wee kitchen. Just all the stuff basically that to keep you dry and warm and have a good sleep. But there's no diesel heaters or anything to flash. And Jesus, I'm driving through Edinburgh, guys, in lockdown. When the lockdown started, I was driving back from Edinburgh, and I just seen Wicked Campers Edinburgh, Wicked Campers Scotland were selling off about 9 vans, and this was the sister of the van that I rented in Australia.
Wow. So
I couldn't resist it, and if we get time after, I'll show the side of the van. Ooh, I hope I'm all right.
Yeah, you're fine.
We've got as much time as you want. Listen, I think what we'll do tonight to get the folks in the mood, we're going to play a bit of a track that you sent me that you did just last weekend. I think it was. Is that the track?
Yes.
Is that the one with Donald that you did last weekend?
Oh yeah.
Was it Donald and Mike?
That was a. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So it was Callum's Road and a couple of reels. Now, I had to cut a couple of reels off because it was too long to put on the thing. But we're going to hear Callum's Road, okay? Which is an amazing tune that Donald wrote, of course. And this is a lovely arrangement of the thing. And where was this about then? Where did you do this?
This was a gig. We did a concert a week ago yesterday. It was, Peter, and pardon me. It was in a place in Monaghan in Ireland, and we just literally all of us just kind of arrived, and it's a wonderful little festival called the Féile Oriel, which is like a kind of, in fact, they have a fiddle competition. You might have come across. Well, you might have come across it. I think a few Scottish bands have been over in the past. But it's a great place, really is. And we just, at every McGoldrick gig, Mike always passes the tune and says, you boys, do a wee tune. So of course, when you get to play with Donald Shaw, you can't not play Callum's Road. I mean, what a tune, lads! Oh
yeah.
Well, I think all the viewers at home will love this track, and it is fantastic. So let's have a listen. Here's Callum's Road with Tim, Mike, and Donald Shaw. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Wonderful melody.
Isn't that a classic melody, lads? And the one I'm so sorry, boys, because I meant to tell you the one before it, the slow air. So that was I was listening one day, I was just literally, the way you just look at the YouTube sometimes and you just, you're just kind of scrolling through YouTube and I see Katie. The Wheel Piper is on. Hi to Katie. Oh, she's an incredible young lady. But yeah, I was scrolling through the YouTube, lads, and I came across this clip of Karen Matheson, great Karen Matheson. She was singing this Gaelic song, and of course, the funny thing is that particular song, which you guys, I'm sure you guys will know. A lot of Scottish people will probably know it, but it's about Loch Etive. It's about cutting bracken on Loch Etive, and apparently, that song is kind of a sort of really popular in the mod and the Gaelic competitions. And Davey, you'd know more than me about it, and so would you, Peter. But geez, I said to Donald, I said, we have to play that. And of course, he no better. He's, oh my God, he's amazing. But yeah, sorry, lads, sorry to be rambling away.
You're fine.
No. This is what this show's about what we're going to do here tonight. The nice thing about this show, Tim, is we bring people on and we're wanting the folks to get to know the artist a wee bit, because the artist, everybody sees us sitting on stage, everybody sees us all play and all that kind of thing. They don't realise that we just eat cornflakes like everybody else and all that kind of stuff as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, or in your case, in JP's case, Mars bars and lots of sweeties halfway through a gig. But anyway, we will get to that. We'll get to them in a wee while. The sweetie store. Anyway, but the one thing, where did this start for you, Tim? Can you tell everybody at home, what instrument did you pick up first? Where did it come from?
So where did I start playing? Or when did I start playing?
Yeah.
So God, I it's a long story, but I in a sort of short
go for it
way, I started playing piano, I guess, when I was maybe I think I was about 4. Well, when I say playing, I was just messing around, and but we always had a piano in the house. My mum Deirdre is Irish, so she always would have had a lot of the Irish music, the chieftains.
Okay. Oh.
No. Give it a second.
Yeah, hopefully he'll come back. It'll just be a blip, hopefully. A 4G blip.
Yeah, I mean, it's centre Perthshire. It's not great for signal. He's lost him play. What we'll do?
Oh, that's okay. We can what we can do once he's he'll be getting connected again, but we can jump onto another video. The next video I was working up to, we can go back to where he started, etc., is with the one and only famous person, Seamus Begley, with him here. And I was going to work onto that as well, because Tim will tell us all about Seamus, because they had a fantastic relationship right through his career. And this was them singing Liverpool Lou. Well, Seamus was singing it. And he said, can you pop this on? And we've got another one later on with Seamus as well. So we'll see how it goes. You should behave just like other girls do. You're all thinking singing now, aren't you? Why must my poor heart keep following you? Stay home and love me, my Liverpool Lou. When I go on walking
Stay home and love me, my little blue. Stay home and love me, my little blue. Great singing.
Yeah. Hey, you're back.
Oh, do you know, lads? It's just one of the things where I live, the area of Perthshire where I live. Words can't begin to describe the. It's like a nightmare with the internet. It's it's dreadful. At one
Don't worry.
point, I was paying for 5 different providers at one point during lockdown just to get the Saturday night show. It's just ridiculous.
It's all right. Hey, Davey just explained that to the audience and said that area can be particularly like that. So
yeah, I just moved to a different area again. It's really weird, but yeah, Seamus Begley, guys, what a I'd almost nearly be crying listening to his, thinking about him there, because of course as you both, I'm sure, know, we lost Seamus. God, when was it now, Peter? Was it 3-4 months ago? I think 3 months.
It's not that long ago.
No, and did you meet Seamus, lads? Did you ever meet? You must have done, I'd say.
I met him. Mine was Seamus, and you, Seamus, and Kevin Henderson played Mario one night. Remember?
Yes, that's right.
I was there that night. That was a cracking gig. Great.
He was something else. I mean, and I've just while we're about an hour before we came on air, I had other sad news about another great musician, a legendary fiddle player. Do you remember Sean Keane of the Chieftains? Sean died today, sadly. Sean. Yeah. So it's, and of course, yeah, it's just I think in the folk world, guys, it's like, and you get it here, of course, in Scotland a lot. It's like the old legends, you know, like the Paddy Maloney's and the, do you know what I mean? And the Jock Duncan, remember Jock Duncan went, and you just think, Christ, like it's the end of a sort of era, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
very much so. Yeah.
You know, nipping back, because I was asking you about learning, and you said you learnt piano. Obviously, you were heavily influenced by the Irish music because of your mum.
Yeah, I mean,
you've been so lucky, haven't you? You've come up through and you get to play with all these amazing musicians.
I really have, Peter. I mean, the funny thing was we grew up. When I grew up, I mean, Dad's a guitarist. I mean, he's not full time. Like he was a teacher, and then later he was a head teacher of a big autistic school. So you know, I used to help out a bit of music now and then. But Mum would have all the Celtic stuff, you know, the Irish stuff, the Scottish stuff. Yeah. She's a huge Capercaillie and you know, like Clanalba and the old, you know, Tannahill, maybe some of the Tannahill Weavers, if I remember rightly. So we would have predominantly had more Irish and Scottish just because, you know, she's from Dublin and she would have had those those records. But yeah, we had a fair bit of Scots stuff as well, and it was through Capercaillie, of course, that I discovered a lot of all your incredible music that you have up here in Scotland. And Charlie McCarran, I kind of owe Charlie McCarran a big thank you, because he was the one really who sort of started me on my Scottish chapter, I guess.
To nip back then, so where were you brought up in? Where were you brought up originally?
I was born in Canterbury in Kent, which is it's well, Davy, from me and Davy now, because I'm not too far from Davy, of course. It's about 520 miles from Dundee, I guess, and from Peter, of course, it's probably 750. but I was brought up in Canterbury, and born in Canterbury, and then I grew up in a wee town called Broadstairs, which had a folk. In fact, it's still going, the Broadstairs Folk Week. So I used to see a lot of bands, you know.
And I was so there was quite a bit of folk music in that area when you were brought up there.
Do you know, Peter? There was there was I mean, funnily enough, there was there was a lot of Celtic music in the sense that it's very different, of course, as you'll both totally understand because you've probably travelled and you've gigged down there. But in England, you kind of had pockets of music, and I was kind of a rebel in a sense because I suppose I'm a big fan of like Andy Cutting and Chris Wood and all that sort of English trad, but I never really learned it because I was sort of I suppose from the beginning, like with Mum, you know what I mean. I was always a sort of a Celtic stuff kind of was always in the blood, but where I lived, we used to see a lot of Scottish bands, funnily enough, and there was a great man called John Rice. He's a poet actually. He's from Glasgow, but he's quite well known if you Google John Rice. Anyone watching, and John used to run a thing called Celts and Kent, and every year I used to love it. And I was only like 12, and you used to see bands like Def Shepherd and a very early Def Shepherd. Maybe I might have been a bit older actually with Def Shepherd. Maybe I was 15. I can't remember. But you'd have bands like Annam. You remember Brian O'Hara and Fiona McKenzie. And then I think Dougie MacLean used to come down. Dougie used to play a bit, and so that was kind of how I got started. And I just Peter, you said it very rightly there. I had all these musical heroes. I mean, they still are really to me. That I'm a funny guy, I suppose, because I sort of it's a weird one to describe, but to me, like, it's really funny. Like thinking of Sean Keane there, the Chieftains. Like I was so lucky. I toured with the Chieftains for about 9 years. Oh, geez, lads! It was such an incredible experience. But it was funny because even though you were on the road with them, I was a backup. Not like what would you say, session musician. I was never a chieftain or anything, but I was a baby chief.
How did that even happen though? How did you just get a phone call from the Chieftains one day? Tim,
Peter, you'll love this story, you and Davey. So it was mad. Way back, I think it was like 1995. I was about, God, I'm 43 now. So, Jesus, some of your listeners will have to do the maths. I think I was 15 or 16, I forget. But I was in Ireland, and we used to go to Ireland a lot. And a friend of mine, Enda McCabe, he's a lovely singer and musician. And he took me to Matt Malloy's, Matt Malloy, the great flute player. And he took me to Matt Malloy's pub, which is in a place called Westport. And if you ever get a chance to go over, lads, you'd love it. Anyway, I met Matt, and I wasn't really a guitar. In fact, I wasn't a guitarist then. I was mostly a button box player. I was playing the melodious. But I met Matt, and I had a tune, and we all, you kind of. I think he probably we met maybe a few times after that, and then the harp player in the Chieftains, Trina Marshall, she replaced Derek Bell. You might remember Derek Bell. He was the original. So she replaced Derek when Derek passed away. And I knew Trina well, and I think it was Paddy Maloney had said to the lads, we need a guitar player for this American tour, because they were kind of changing the sound of the backing band, if you know what I mean. Not the backing band, but yeah, you know what I mean. The back line. And Matt said, God, like, I think it was Matt and Trina said, God, there's this fella Tim Edey, and he plays in the style of Steve Cooney. Steve would be my mentor, and that's how I got the gig. And then I got this phone call one day. I remember it very vividly. It was 2010, and I was in London actually. I was in London, and I got this phone call. It was Paddy Maloney. I thought it was somebody winding me up, but he was the most amazing man. I mean, it's such a loss, I think, not just to the trad world, because he kind of achieved something which I suppose we all try to we strive to achieve, and I guess that is he crossed over that what's the word, lads, when you play folk music but you appeal to non-folkies, do you know what I mean? The Chiefs is like a, you know what I mean? I suppose Cavalcali have achieved the same, I would say, you know. But it's not an easy thing to do. It's not at all.
No. The band that's kind of done that now is Skerryvore.
Oh yes, Davey, you're right. Yeah,
they've recently managed to get themselves into the
you're
mainstream
right,
charts.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
But yeah, it's very difficult for traditional musicians to do that, and it takes a special musician to be able to speak the right to the right people.
Do you think, David? Do you think it's a I always used to pester Paddy Maloney, you know, and I'd always ask him how did you mastermind this? And he said, well, we never really masterminded it. And I think in those days, you know, I suppose they were going a long time, but Skerryvore is a great example. They were in the charts, lads, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, you could do a whole show actually on transitional. You know, folk. It's really and geez, Peter, you mentioned JP Cormier earlier. Of course, you know JP, Peter, a long time, and JP, I suppose, has done that in Canada. Would you say in Nova Scotia? And but it's not an easy thing. I wish I could do it.
Well, very interestingly, our next track we're going to hear is JP and yourself,
Peter. Oh my God.
So that was perfect timing. You would think we'd rehearsed that there.
No. Peter, which one are you going to play?
How did you meet up with JP?
Oh, geez, Peter. Are you ready for a story? I promise I'll try and keep this one short. Lads, you do realise I'm one of the worst bleverers probably in Scotland, I would say. Lads, this is a great. Well, JP, of course, you know. Pardon me. I've always been. As Davey and you probably know, and in fact, you guys I'm pretty sure more or less the same. Except I know here in Scotland, you guys are pretty amazing, because I chat to Ross Ainsley about this. Because one thing certainly with pipers I know is you guys learn to read the pipe music from a very early age, and of course, I kind of missed out on that, lads. I feel like as they would say in Ireland, a Luddite. You know, I can't read a note, and I feel so embarrassed by that. But the funny thing about it, the way I learned to play, and in fact I still do it. To an extent, I would choose. You know, I'd listen to a musician, for example, like JP Cormier. So I remember hearing JP when I was, I think I might have been maybe 30 years old. I suspect I was about 30. And I'd heard of this album called Another Morning. It's a great record. You ever get it? You know the Davey, if you haven't heard it, you'll have to have a listen. And it was Peter. It was his first album, wasn't it? It was his first.
He played in Mid-Yale Hall, about half a mile from where I am sitting just now, and that was the year they brought that album out, and he was kind of promoting it at the time, and he done these songs live on stage with the trio, and it was awesome. It was just incredible.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that night, Peter? Unbelievable. I mean, he's like we could, in the guitar world, I always refer to him as a sort of monster. He's just a monster picker, isn't he? He's unbelievable.
Monster. He is a monster.
But I'll tell you, lads, real quick, because I'm a terrible bleverer. So anyway, if we go back to about 2010, Brendan Power, the great harmonica player, Brendan brought me over to Canada, and I had a terrible phobia. I mean, this is a lot of people who know me would know this. I had a terrible phobia of flying for many years.
I do know this because I sat behind you on a plane flying across the Minch to Hebkelt, and I think you were nearly eating your way out the seat in front of you at one point.
Peter, I think I remember that. That was on the way to Jesus, Peter. That was to go into the Hebkelt in Stornoway.
Yeah.
And I think Sharon Shannon was there, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, I think she
Yes.
was.
I was a nervous. Oh, Peter, I was a nervous wreck, and you know, it was terrible, guys. I mean, I didn't. Well, Brendan and Isabel. I remember they had to. We flew down from Edinburgh, I think, because I was living in Scotland. And I lived in Scotland for a couple of years in 2010 to 2012, when our daughter was born, and then we kind of went traveling again. And of course, I'm back now, of course, and you're amazing in Perthshire. But anyway, yeah, Brendan sort of and Isabel, dragged me onto this plane, and I remember thinking, you're kind of trying to calm yourself, and I used to suffer from really quite what would be the word? Debilitating is maybe the word. Panic attacks. I suffered from all that, and I got over it. I mean, you still, you can never cure this. I don't think. I think it's something you got to just live with. And so nowadays, I've got so many techniques that I've learned, breathing techniques, and anybody watching this, if you've ever had anything like this, you'll know exactly what I mean. But we're traveling anyway to Canada, and I was so excited because we were doing a gig with JP, and of course I'd never met JP Cormier ever. So you got to remember, guys, I got off the plane, we did that drive to Cape Breton from Halifax, of course, 6 hours or whatever, and JP came up to me, and it was like, for me, it was like meeting God. I mean, I couldn't get over this, and and he's quite as you remember, Peter. I mean, he's a big, big character, and he said, "What?" He said, "Brother," he says, he says, "You know my playing, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, I do. I love your playing." And he says, "Would you back me up? Would you back me up?" And I said, "Of course I would. I'd be honored." And that is the first time we ever played together. I don't know the video you're going to play, but I wonder if it's this video, the one with the
I think it is.
Yeah,
it's the Celtic Cross one, and let's play it, and we can talk about it after, because I saw the two of yous up here at the folk festival once as well, and it was just unbelievable. You kind of wandered onto stage and just made it up as you went along, and it was unbelievable. It was just incredible. It was just amazing.
Here we go.
Even it's just awesome. It's awesome. It's you two. The two of you just compliment each other, don't you? Oh, you muted yourself, Tim.
Oh, sorry, but yes.
That's okay.
My
Yeah,
God.
The two of you just compliment each other amazingly. It's fantastic.
Oh, do you know it's so funny? Like the minute it was really weird. It was like the minute we sort of met each other, right? There was it's kind of a weird thing you get occasionally with another musician, and I think because I suppose I'd listened to his music a lot, so I suppose I would have known a lot of the tunes, but he's he blows my mind, guys. I mean, I honestly I say this to people all the time, and the guitar. I mean, the guitar world, as you guys know, I mean, there's so many different styles of guitar playing. I mean, you can never really say that somebody is the best in the world, because of course it's like saying Mark Knopfler is the best electric guitar player in the world, and he's probably the best at what he does. He's incredible.
Yep.
But like you listen to to Anna Massey, you know what I mean, and what she does is nobody can do what she does. So, but with JP, it's the same sort of thing, and it's such a rare thing with him to hear those fiddle tunes, isn't it? Played on the guitar like that, and he never misses a note. It's just unbelievable.
Tim, I think you're doing your usual thing that you always do and being incredibly modest, and I don't think sometimes you realise how many people are looking at you exactly the same way and thinking, "Wow."
Oh yes.
Yes. And I think when I hear you playing there, I'm trying to put together when you were saying, I picked up the guitar and I started learning the guitar, and how you have developed into that standard of a player and how you've got such an understanding of the music. That's why I'm trying to work out how you did it all when you said you didn't read music or anything. You've just done it. Incredible. Natural.
You're ever so kind, lads. I mean, you're ever so kind. I mean, it's a funny thing, I was talking to Isabel. Funnily enough, last night I was talking to Isabel about this. And I don't know how you guys, if you ever get this, lads, but it's a really, I suffer from a thing, and I guess maybe everybody has it. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know if anybody who plays an instrument, or I suppose it could be related to anything. Maybe if you're a golfer, maybe you get it, or if if you're like a rally driver or whatever. But I really do suffer from this thing. I did a gig in Ireland, lads, about a week ago, the night before the gig with Donald Shaw and McGoldrick, and I hadn't done a gig. I guess I hadn't done a solo gig for a while because I've been playing a lot with Mr. Ainsley, which has been wonderful. So it was quite a big thing because I suddenly got on stage and I was like, oh my God, like I'm on my own. Like there's no Ross and there's no, and, of course I'm used to doing it because I've done it hundreds of times. But when you haven't done it for a few months,
that's right.
Lads, I had this thing, and it can only be described as, have you ever had a thing where you just like, you're convinced that what you're playing, like every note you're playing is terrible. And you get it in your head, and then after the gig, when you eventually go to your bed, and I was listening to this video of the gig that somebody sent me, and I was lying there, and honestly, lads, I'd punished myself for about 3 hours. I sat, honestly, I was convinced it was the worst I'd ever played, and I listened to this video, and I was like, oh my, like Jesus, it's not that bad. And it's so funny. Isn't the mind? Have you ever had that, lads? The mind is
absolutely.
Oh,
Definitely, and you're having that gig as well when you think everything's sounding wrong and everything's not sounding right, and then you do hear something back, or somebody comes up to the end and says that was awesome, and you've got this kind of guilt feeling in yourself. Thinking, wait a minute, that wasn't what I was meaning. I wasn't.
You're so right.
Doing it, but it's quite interesting.
It could be a type of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think you're probably right. I mean, it's a bizarre. It's Peter summed it up there really well. It's almost, you think the sound, and those gigs like where you're on stage, you think, oh my god, like the sound must be so bad, and of course you're not hearing what the people no. And do you think, guys, do you think every musician must get that at some point? I mean,
must do.
Yeah. I get a lot more.
If not, they should. If not, they should, because you have to realise what that's like to make it really good, don't you? I mean, to make it the opposite, you have to.
It is funny, lads. It's a funny thing. I talked to Ross Ainsley about this quite a bit. I'm convinced that music and mental health seem to have a very, very, very close, almost like a dangerous, not a dangerous connection, but you know what I mean, a very close bond. And it's a weird, it's funny, you could do a whole program about actually but
when we look in the music scene and say alcohol and drugs, etc.
Yes.
Mood enhancers, basically, and you could honestly, you can see how that happens. You can see how it happens in the music world, though, can't we? Because we're not doing a sellout fab gig every night of the week.
No,
but the nights we do them, you come off the stage absolutely buzzing. You've got that natural buzzing feel.
It's a natural buzz, yeah.
Yeah, and you can see how people then go home, and then the next night they're maybe sitting in the house for 2 or 3 nights, and you've not got that buzz.
No.
So your mental stimulation is just like getting a battering. It's like
it's a funny thing. It's really funny, Peter, because may I add one thing, lads, to that list of mood enhancers? Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Do you know, guys? Can I tell you? And I'm sorry to drive you mad. I've just got to tell. I think you'll appreciate this one, lads, and the listeners. I hope I'm not driving them too mad. But that clip you just played of JP. That was one of the most memorable. That was probably one of the most memorable weeks in my adult life, because I got to hang out for about 4 days with JP and Phil Cunningham at the same time. And,
oh my
god! I mean, can you imagine? I was like a child in a sweet shop. Honestly, I really was. And I hope I'm allowed to say this on air. I think I probably am, because he won't mind. But guys, I've got to tell you quickly. So Phil was backstage before we went on to that gig that we just saw. And I remember Phil had asked JP, is there any pubs? Is there any taverns around? We were just going to get a wee dram, as you do, or whatever. And me not being the biggest, being the biggest drinker in Cape Breton. I do love a wee drink, but I'm not what you'd maybe call a seasoned drinker. JP says to Philly, he says we've got a great tavern. It's called the Ford Tavern, and the Ford Tavern is the Ford Tavern was basically JP's truck, and we went into the truck. Of course, it was parked, and we sat and we had beer, and we sat in the back and we had like a sort of a wee Corona or whatever it was, and I'll never forget that. And JP was sitting. And Phil was there, and I thought, oh my god, this is just unbelievable, because I suppose it's moments like that, and I never forget that week. And the two of them played, and when you see me smiling and laughing a couple of times in that video, I was actually laughing because Phil was pulling faces. but I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed to.
But no, what I was meaning earlier though, with the likes of the drink and drugs and things like that, you can see why when people aren't in the high mode,
Yeah.
that they feel they need to have something to get them there. Not
Yeah.
everybody, not
Yeah,
everyone
you're
does.
right.
Don't get me wrong, that's rubbish. But I sometimes think that that's why it's highlighted as a problem when musicians sometimes.
Davey, Peter is so right on that, and I definitely. I mean, it's quite funny. I mean, I'm very open about this, but I'm a very hyperactive sort of person, and I get really excited. I mean, you can see it now, even just talking to you boys about music and just coming on the show. It's a wonderful. I love it. It's an honor to be chatting to you both, and I know you both, and I know your music, and I get so I just get this sort of natural buzz, and it's quite funny because I was on an aeroplane once coming back from Codec Colours, and
that's what I do. I'm like, so Davey was mentioning there as well, Brendan Power.
Oh Jesus, Peter!
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a player!
We're going to have a track for you and Brendan Power.
Oh God, Peter, he's unbelievable. He is. Well, I don't know where to start. Where would you start? I suppose
it's all these international stars you're playing with. It's not just people from Scotland and England. You're playing with Australians, Canadians, everybody.
Oh my God! I mean, Brendan is we had about 10 years together, and he's semi-retired. Well, he's not retired, but he's sort of semi-retired from live gigs because he does a lot of designing. Actually, this would be very interesting. Davey might put a wee link up. I think Davey, it's like, what's it called? You'll probably find the website Brendan Power.
Brendan's a New Zealander though, isn't he?
He is, Peter. He's a New. He lives in England now. He's living in Canterbury. But I never forget. I remember. I can't remember if it was Donald Black. I remember we did a gig once with Donald Black. You know Donald Black, beautiful.
Yeah, we had Donald on as a guest one night. Yeah.
Oh, I love Donald. Do you know something, guys? There's an album that Donald Black did with, is it Malcolm Jones from Runrig, I think.
Yeah.
And there's an album, lads, of Donald Black, and it's basically a whole album of Donald playing Gaelic slow airs, and it's one of my favorite records. Yeah. And Donald Black and Brendan played together once in Bristol, and I think there's probably a video of it. I forget, but that was a magic. But sorry,
but Brendan, you're right. I've read about him. He's designing all these harmonicas for the job and everything, isn't he? Different octaves and all sorts of things. And
try and put a little link there, Davey, if you can.
Have a look, have a look. But yeah, so here is a video from Cambridge Folk Festival back in 2012. So let's see this one.
We're going to have some amazing music and great virtuosic playing from the one and only Tim Edey and the one and only Brendan Power. Good on yous.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's awesome. It's just amazing. What a sound.
Oh, that was that great. Another great memory, lads. That was a funny thing was we sort of were a bit. We were quite. I remember we were quite starstruck because, of course, Zoe Ball and Mark Radcliffe and Julie Fowlis, of course. Julie was there.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting Zoe Ball, and I think we asked her if we could move in with her, and she took it very
As
well.
you do. As you
No
do.
harm in asking. No harm in asking.
She was a lovely girl, you know. She really, really was. She was the most genuine, and because you know, she was, and of course, Mark.
But I take it she said no, though.
She did. Well, she said maybe you can visit. but
Listen, see, when you're doing stuff like that, do you have to spend hours practicing together to put that stuff together?
Peter, now this is, and I, you know, this is a funny thing, and I'm going to tell you this honestly, and I can promise you, hand on heart, I mean, there was a strange thing with Brendan. It's a funny thing, and I said about it earlier with JP. There's a very, very weird thing. Again, I've been a fan of Brendan Power. You know, I saw Brendan Power playing in Riverdance. He was in Riverdance. He played them. In fact, Peter, you'll appreciate this because you're a box player. Well, you're an amazing box player. Martin O'Connor. Remember Martin O'Connor? You know, Martin from Ireland.
Yeah.
So, Davey, Brendan actually took over from Martin O'Connor on the harmonica. I mean, imagine that for a second. It's just insane. And I went to see this. I was 16, and it was in the Hammersmith Apollo. It was when Gene Butler was the lead dancer. Yeah. It was a long time ago, and so I met Brendan. Then, sorry for that. And I remember we got together probably about 7 years later when I was maybe in my early 20s, and he just moved down to Kent, and we just played. And of course, again, I'd listened to all his albums. I was a mega fan of Brendan Power. I mean, I still am, and we became very close friends, and we're still friends. Of course, we don't. Sadly, I'm sad to say we haven't. God, we haven't played together for many years, and that's an awful shame. But there was no, you know, there was no bad feeling. It was just we just kind of, you know, we'd taken what we had, and we'd achieved. I suppose we were happy with, you know, we did a lot of gigs, but funny thing is, Peter, you mentioned there that we never had a rehearsal ever, never ever. I mean, we just played. But the wonderful thing about, I tell you how it works, though, guys. And I was talking to Ross about this. I mean, I'm a bit of a weird musician in the sense that I don't have anything against rehearsing. I really don't. But I'm not very good at. I can't remember the same.
I know when you're going, what happened.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's a really weird thing, and I think both of you probably know what I mean. And it's a funny thing, and it's been a brilliant thing, but it's also had a, if you like, a slightly, shall we say, I've probably not been asked to do certain projects because, you know, I'm not the kind of person who can read a chart. I just can't. I can't. Yeah. Mentally. I mean, I've never been diagnosed with it, but I've always wondered if I've got a bit of that. What do they call the ADHD? Because for many years, lads, I can read a book out loud, but I cannot sit down and read a novel. I can't do it. I'm too. My brain is full of tunes, and I just cannot. Have you ever had a thing, lads? You read a page, and you can't remember it. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And it's a
No,
bit like that with music.
I have had that driving home for a gig at night though, right enough.
Yeah.
20 miles up the
Yeah.
Where did that 20 miles?
Peter.
Yeah.
But on the
I've
back
had
of that,
that.
Tim, that does lead us to your latest album with Mr.
Ooh.
Ainsley.
Oh yes,
Because,
Davey.
um,
Yes, let's
because-
talk about that. Yes.
Because is it Diad? It's called.
Now, Davey, this will make you laugh. So Ross came up with that name, and I thought it was lads. I thought it was a Gaelic name, but apparently it's not. It's actually you know Mr. Ainsley well, Davey, and he's quite the academic, I think, and he says a diad. A diad is a triad. Is it a triad and a diad?
All right.
Jesus, Peter,
It's a
I see
sequence of
it's
two.
way above my head.
Yeah.
Tell you what, you've lost me already.
Yeah.
And me as well.
But the whole premise of this album is you recorded it live as if it was a
We
gig.
did. Davey, this is another example, guys, of me and Ross. I mean, there's a couple of things, of course, that you have to understand, I suppose, and because when I say about not rehearsing, I don't mean that in an ignorant sense, in an arrogant sense, not at all, because
No.
you've got to remember that, of course, say like with Ross, the tunes we're playing, I guess, are tunes we've played quite a lot. And of course, in a duo setting, I mean, that's the wonderful thing about a duo, because when you're playing the guitar with a duo, it doesn't. Well, there's no bass, is there? There's no. You can basically. I mean, one thing I loved about playing with the Chieftains is that. Do you know? Paddy never ever told me. He never once gave me any instructions. He just said, look, just try and complement the music. And so I tried to, and I thought that was such a wonderful thing, because you see, but with the Chieftains, of course, you didn't need to worry about chords, because of course, as long as you were playing what the harp was doing, it didn't matter. And so with Ross, I think the thing with Ross is a very fun duo, because most of the time I'm on guitar. I mean, I do play a bit of box, and he plays the old sit-in. But Diad is, we did it live. We did it in Glasgow, and we literally just sat down and we just played, and it's a really fun album. I mean, it's we did add a couple of people, I think, David. We added Donald Shaw, and who else? There's some who else played, David? Was it Jesus? Maybe there's only Donald.
I think it's only Donald, according to Bandcamp. Yeah.
It's a lovely record. I mean, Ross. Guys, of course, Ross Ainsley now is the official piper to the Snoop Dogg.
He is.
Yeah.
Brilliant video.
But
see
when
what are
you
you going to play?
when you sneak back on that, very, very quickly before we do have a listen to this, when you're talking about things, do you not think sometimes if things are too rehearsed and too polished, they start to lose the edge?
Peter, do you know something? You have taken the words out of my mouth. I feel that I have to. I'm one of those players. I just love. I would love to sit down now with you, say in Shetland, and accompany you on some tunes, and we would just play. And if you liked what I was doing, and I would study. I would listen to what you were doing on your left hand and whatever.
It would bounce back and forth.
Yes, we would bounce off each other, and the same with Davey with the pipes and that. I as long as I get a bounce, I'm happy. And the problem is, lads, and Peter, you said it there. I think there's a very, very big danger here, and this is something, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying that. I think, how would I say it? I love all the different music. I mean, especially at the moment, Scotland seems to be a melting pot of traditional music. I think there is one danger with folk music, and I think that you don't want to be too polished, because I mean, obviously, you don't want to you don't want to sort of sound unorganized, but I think I wonder, guys, are we heading into a phase of possibly traditional music? I'm not going to say too polished, but arrangement. Yes,
Structure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Too structured.
Exactly, Pete. And no names or anything mentioned, because I love all the different. I honestly, I genuinely love all the different music that I hear. But one of the things I do think, lads, when you listen to Scary Vor and the Chieftains, just as an example, and Kabakali have it as well, they've got that polished sound, but there's still the magic, isn't there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you've got to keep that magic. I think so.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
It's not easy.
It becomes too clinical.
It does. It does, Dave.
Same with some albums that you listen to, and it's all perfect, and you're like,
yes.
But then in the same instance, it's when you've got the time to perfect it in the studio, that's great.
Know.
But when you go out on the stage, it's never going to be perfect, because it's going to be the crowd are going to clap on the offbeat. They're going to kind of throw you. You're going to spot something in the audience that's going to get your mind going, and you'll up the tempo slightly. You'll get a buzz. But that's exactly what we want, though. It's so that it's all well and good listening to CDs all the time, but you're not doing you're not going to a gig when you don't really get the same. It's
kind really of difficult. I mean, I hope
that I said to a youngster the other day as well, and once you've mastered how to cover the mistakes, you're cooking.
Peter, that's exactly what I think.
I've always been taught that if you're playing on your own, be it on your piping, as long as you play the same mistake twice, it's not a mistake.
Absolutely, Davey, absolutely. You know, guys, the record with Ross, I hope anybody who's listened to it, I know there's a couple of people on the comments. I really hope it's not, it's hopefully captured a sort of a live bit.
Well, this is Celtic Thunder we're going for just now.
Oh yeah, let's have it. Oh yeah.
We'll talk about your composition after this.
Oh yes.
Tim Edey. Mr. Ross is on the sitting there.
Great. There's chemistry there, boy. There's chemistry.
Oh, that was a
I
fun one.
I believe the term we were looking for earlier with a lot of your duo groups, let's say, is kindred spirits.
Davey, you're right, Davey. Yeah, that's a really good. That's a very good point, actually. I think.
Because I do find that I've seen you play over the years in different kind of guises, and the ones that do seem to have the best response are the ones like yourself and Ross and yourself and Brendan, where you are bouncing off each other and you're not.
Yeah, you're right.
Because sometimes, like we were saying before, if the other musician is not as easy-ozy, then it can kind of not fall apart. Right, but it's not as good. But that second tune is obviously Celtic Thunder, which is one of your compositions.
Yeah, David, that's I totally agree with everything you've said there. It's like that thing the sort of spontaneity. It doesn't work with everyone, that's for sure.
No.
And I respect that. I do respect that.
Yeah.
But that Celtic Thunder, there's quite a story. Well, there's quite a story to that one, lads. I promise I'll keep this one short because I know the time. But
no, you're fine. Okay.
I was working. Well, I got a gig way back. This is like 1998 to about 2001. I got a gig. It was a contract to play guitar and melodeon in this kind of Irish. It was like an Irish dance show based in London, and it was like a trip. It's basically like a tribute to Riverdance. It was like a theme, a theme show. Do you remember guys in the late 90s and early 2000s? Riverdance and Lord of the Dance was just mental. I mean, everybody wanted it. And so I got this gig playing with this sort of Irish London-based. They were like a touring company. And anyway, we spent about 8 months of the year on the Baltic Sea in Scandinavia, and basically we did 2 months on, and then you had about 2 weeks off. It was my dream gig because I love boats. I grew up, my dad's a sailor, and we grew up. I grew up on the sea, and of course Peter will know all about that, and you as well, Dave. You're on the coast in Dundee. I just love it.
Yep. Yeah, it's great.
And I got this gig, and Jesus, I mean, it was unbelievable. You were getting paid to play the guitar and the button box for like 2 hours a night. Well, 2 hours a day, and of course you had the days, and it was on a cruise liner. Well, when I say a cruise liner, it was a cruise liner, but it was also a car ferry. It was Peter. It was like a giant. It'd be like a giant version of the Shetland ferry. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Yeah. But I loved it, and it had a wee pool, and we lived in cabins, the crew quarters, and then at that time, I just a fella in London called Jerry Diver, and he's a musician. Some of you might have heard. I don't know if she's as well known in Scotland, but there's a singer called Lisa Knapp. She's a great singer, and he's a wonderful musician. And he taught me how to record using. Do you remember the first ever kind of digital Porter Studios? The Boss did one, and I had a Roland one. It was called a VS 1680. You can't really buy them anymore. And so I was obsessed, and I used to spend like 6-7 hours in my cabin because, of course, you didn't have anything else to do, so it was perfect. And I wrote that tune, and initially it was written for one of the girls that at the time we were sort of dating, and it turned out to be my first ever sort of love affair or whatever, if you want to call it that. Now things took a downward turn when when she heard that tune.
Oh,
It's a true story.
oh well.
And then I kind of recycled that tune. I remember Charlie McCarran. I used to travel up to the Highlands from England, from Kent, and I used to get the bus from Canterbury to London, and then I used to get the Inverness. I think it was called the M90, and it was National Express. And used to get off in Aviemore. Charlie would pick me up. Of course, I'd be like exhausted because you'd like traveled like 11 hours. And I remember one of those times, Charlie was putting together the first ever Session A9 album called. Was it called What Road? I forget what it was called, but
I think so.
It was the original lineup, Davey. And Peter. It was Gordon Gunn. Jesus, Duncan Chisholm was in the band, I think.
That's right. Yeah, and
Chris Drever.
Yeah.
And Kevin Henderson and Adam Sutherland, and of course McCarran. And Charlie said, have you got any tunes? And I said, well, funnily enough, I got this reel that I'd written for this girl who was on the cruise. That she was one of the dancers, and do you know what? It seemed to fit really well on the fiddle. And I remember Charlie playing it, and he changed it to the key of C, and that was Celtic Thunder, and that I think it's on. Jesus, Davey, I think it's on that album.
It is. It's track 13.
And that was an honor because can you imagine for me, like, I'd never had a tune recorded by such a name. I mean, Charlie, Kepakali, whatever, Charlie McCarran, a wonderful fiddler, and I just couldn't believe it. And so that's where the tune came from. And then there was another tune that I played called Kent to Kintail. That's another tune that Session A9 did, and I wrote that one about when I finally managed to save up and I got a car. And Charlie said, well, stop getting the bus. Why don't you just drive up and you can spend like 3 weeks up in Aviemore, because he used to let me stay, and he was so kind to me. And I used to drive up, and one of the times I drove up, me and McGoldrick had just done a gig in a place in Scotland called, Jesus, what was it called? It was a crazy place. It was called Knock'n Gorrick. The one? Yep. Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, Davey, you might have been there. It's in the middle of a forest, isn't it? Peter might have played
much.
And I was driving this Volkswagen Polo, and it had a really, really bad problem with the cylinder head gasket. And every 2 hours you had to stop. You remember the old trick? You used to fill it up with hot water, cold water, and of course I got to Aviemore, and of course that was the tune I wrote on that trip called Kent to Kintail, because we had to drive to Kintail the next day. Of course, Charlie let me. I think we left the Polo. but geez, guys, I've had some. I really am very lucky. I've had such great times up here in your country, playing with some of you, the wonderful musicians, and Shetland, of course. I mean, geez, God, Peter, I love coming to Shetland. Oh man,
yeah, I remember Shetland loves it when you come here too, believe me.
Oh Jesus, Peter, I was very sad, Peter. I didn't make it to Ross Cooper's wedding. I was so sad. Yeah. Did you manage to catch any of them? I bet you must have seen them. Some of them.
I was actually away on holiday as well.
You were in Turkey. I remember. Yes.
That's right.
Yes, yeah. I remember. Chief Peter, I remember seeing some of those pictures from your trip, and it looked stunning.
Looked good fun. Yeah. But do you still do the Costa del Folk thing? Do you still do that?
Well, I haven't. I'm doing it in October. That's a great festival, guys. We should, in fact, you should both come out. But we should try and organise something. It's basically like that week, that couple of weeks in Turkey, but you do gigs.
Well, music. Well, listen, Tim, I'm sure you could convince Davey and me to come out and do it.
You can twist my arm.
Oh, geez, lad, you would love it. It is really good fun. I think we were just talking to Skerryvore. I think Skerryvore headlined the last one 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I think so.
the
Yeah,
Ibiza.
possibly.
Good one.
Yeah.
But sorry, boys. Yeah, no, I'm terrible.
That's all right.
No,
I
at
know
What I was
all.
going to say, is obviously you've written a few tunes that became kind of staples within kind of
Ooh.
trad and folk.
Oh my God,
I was saying Celtic Thunder, Kent Tale, and
Little Bird.
that Little Bird. Yes.
Oh
Which,
yes.
Little Bird's a fantastic tune, and it fits
Oh my
lovely on the
God.
pipes as well.
Oh, it goes well on the
Um,
pipes. Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
really, really good. But we're going to before we let you go, Tim, we've got one video left over because you did do some work with Sharon Shannon.
I did, Davey. I played with. I was so lucky. It's another one of my big heroes, and in fact, I this is a. I mean, I won't touch. Jesus, I'll be driving you all mad because I'm a terrible man for leverage. But she's probably the reason. It's probably not. It's probably not. No, it's definitely true to say that she's probably the reason that I play music, I suppose, because I mean, it was I remember she she's an incredible woman. I mean, I love her playing. I mean, Peter, you're a box player, you'll appreciate it as well
Absolutely
as me.
incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. The funny thing with it, Peter, and Davey, you'll get this as the piper, I bet. It's a bit like Gordon Duncan. When you hear her, you know it's her, right? It's like Gordy on the pipes. You know when you hear Gordon Duncan. I mean, I'm not a piper, but I kind of know when I'm listening to Gordon. I think just from what Ross has educated me on. But with Sharon Shannon, you listen to it, and it's Peter. You know, don't you? Immediately, it's Sharon Shannon.
Yeah.
And I just
there's not that many people can do that. Have such
no, you're right, Peter. You are so right.
There's certain accordion players and I noticed you had Gordon Patillo had been working in some of your stuff lately.
Jesus.
Now Gordon's an amazing player, and he's
Phenomenal.
got an incredibly distinct style.
He has.
Yes,
he has.
And then somebody like Ian McPhail, you can tell immediately that it's him. And there's not that many people can do it. And the other thing that these guys amaze me with is it doesn't matter who's playing with them. You can still tell it's them. You can still tell it's them.
Peter, I knew you'd know Gordon. Isn't he the most wonderful man? Oh my God.
Fabulous.
Oh, I got to play a couple of tunes with him, lads.
I noticed online that you'd had a tune. Yeah, I noticed. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I really, and I just, and of course he got to play with. Am I right to say he got to play with Jimmy Shand in his band?
Oh, he's done all the bits, and he's done everything. Yeah.
He's done everything.
But he's a great box. He's great at repairing the boxes and all that as well.
Peter, he's superb. He's just done. He just fixed up my old free row, and oh my God, it's like a different. I just can't believe he's managed to do it. He's a gentleman, isn't he? He's an absolute legend. I love that guy. Peter, if you're ever coming down to Dundee, because of course he's not far from Davey, Peter.
No, he's not.
He's about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Davey, can I ask you one quick thing, Davey? And this is this is not music related, but this is about your hometown, sir, your home city. Davey, there is a shop. Now, I'm going to take you through this, Davey. Let's just think. Okay, so we're coming from Discovery, right? We're coming from Discovery. We've just been round Discovery because I love Dundee, Davey. I love coming to Dundee, and I think Dundee is a bit like Dublin. To me, it's one of the friendliest places I've ever been to. Oh, yeah. And I go around Dundee, and one of the places that me and Isabel go, there is a bakery, Davey, and they do the most unbelievable fudge donut. Now, you must know where I mean.
I do, yes.
Davey, what is it called?
Goodfellow and Donaldson.
Goodfellow.
Sorry. Goodfellow to Fisher and Donaldson. Yeah, Fisher and Donaldson.
Davey, it's Fisher and Donaldson, and it's in that road, right? Like, say for example, say my head is sorry, this is terrible now, but say my head is the harbour, is a Discovery, and you walk up, you go past the station and the new hotel on the left, and you go up to the Malmaison, right, and then you go past Tony Macaroni, which is good as well. Other brands are available. And Davey, it's on the right-hand side. And it's a wee cafe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Davey,
the one.
Davey, next time I come to Dundee, let's go there together.
Yes. Yes.
Peter, I swear to God, you have never tasted a fudge donut like this.
Tim, they've started a direct flight from somewhere in Shetland to Dundee now.
Oh, you have to. Lads, we'll have to have a weekend. Peter, Davey, you've got to get Peter Wood down, because honestly, I tell you, Peter, this is like, it's unbelievable. It's maybe not something you could have every day. Well, maybe I could. I love Dundee.
Tim,
well, let's do it.
Tim, it's been fantastic having you on tonight. Thank you much for coming on such short notice.
Guys, thank you so much. I hope I haven't driven you mad, Davey and Peter.
It's been phenomenal. It's been an absolutely wonderful interview.
Let's get Peter down to Dundee and we'll do a night. We'll have a night together. It'll be tune and a donut.
Sounds good to me. And then because I'm sure we could have spoke all night, and I'm sure we will speak all night. That sounds a good option.
Lads, the dangerous thing about having me on your show is we could be doing this till 4 or 5 in the morning. I'm not kidding.
For those of you that want to get albums, they can just go to your website, timedey.co.uk, and either download or get there. Here we go. Tim Edey and Shannon. Tim, all the best.
You're a saint. Thank you very much, man. Take care.
Woohoo! I'm going to go on Facebook and look at the comments. Yeah.
Brilliant. What a cracking guest. cheered me up no end.
I've got a problem now.
Yeah.
I fancy a donut.
I fancy coming down to Dundee for a donut with you guys and having a night playing tunes. I think that'll be just splendid.
Sounds like a plan.
Forget showbiz and gigs and money and everything. Let's just sit down and have a donut and play. That would be good.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to Tim for coming on there and just go down. Organised it all through the week. But what an amazing musician! What an amazing guy! I don't think you're going to meet a more humble person in the music scene. To be honest, he's just modest, so modest. It's just incredible.
We have a cracking guest next week.
Yes, we do have a cracking guest next week. Do you want to reveal?
Nah, you do it.
Well, really looking forward to this because I've known this man for a number of years, and I actually never heard the group playing live.
No.
Because next week we have on the one and only Martin Haddon. And Martin, of course, was the bass player with Silly Wizard, with all the boys. And it's going to be fantastic having Martin on. Of course, he's got the CD company, etc., and all that now that he's been doing for years and years and years, but involved with the music scene right through. So really looking forward to that, and we'll speak about the whole thing next week. And we will mention the CD company. Of course, there are others, but we'll really mention his.
Is there? Is there?
No, there's no next week. No, there's just one next week. That's it. No, I can't wait to have Martin Haddon on. It's going to be a fantastic night having Martin on. And hearing, it's going to be really nice to hear about, because let's face it, Silly Wizard and Battlefield, Tannehill Weavers, they were the kind of trailblazers. They were the guys that went to America and things and got it all going. So I'm really looking forward to hearing that side of the story and where it went for there kind of thing. So anyway, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been joining us tonight, that you've not joined us before because you knew that Tim was on, fantastic having you on.
Yes.
And I hope you join us again some other times. This is what the show's like. We try to come on every week and have a good fun and some tunes in between. And we've got great guests all the time for you. And we're speaking about it tonight, actually, because we're well over 200 guests now because we started this at the beginning of the lockdown. And obviously it's going to be a bit harder nowadays to get guests because folk are back gigging and things. It's not like when we were in COVID, but we are still surviving. We are hanging together so far. So we'll see what we can do.
You could say that we're still standing.
We're still standing. Good name for a tune.
That's on BBC One at the moment, so it's fine. Just ignore that.
All right, okay. Leave that to you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Keep sharing. Davey, take care. Have a great pipe band competition next Saturday, is it? Next Saturday. I might even have a video for you. Oh, that would be good. Yeah, that was a video. That would be good. And then, yeah, brilliant. That would be really good. And then we'll have Martin Haddon on as a guest. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Take care. Have a good week. Good night. Thank you,